No.
Okay.
And this morning, we have Bob, Dora, and Paulina to give us updates on the border, different borders, but the borders in Nogales and Tijuana. And to begin with, Sally, would you read our opening, please?
Yes, thank you. This is a blessing from a book called The Cure for Sorrow. And this is called the section called Blessings of Hope. Blessing for the place between. From Genesis. And Jacob dreamed that there was a ladder set up on the earth, the top of it reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. When you come to the place between, when you have left what you held most dear, when you are traveling toward the life you know not, when you arrive at the hardest ground, may it become for you a place to rest. May it become for you a place to dream. May the pain that has pressed itself into you give way to vision, to knowing. May the morning make of it an altar, a path, a place to begin again. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Sally. This morning, we'll begin with Bob, and Bob will tell us about his experiences in the past week. So, and then we'll go to Dora. Dora, is Anna on?
No, she's not. She couldn't make it.
Okay.
Yeah, and she
It's all
sent me.
right.
She sent me a PowerPoint, a couple slides of pictures, and I send it to you, I think, but I don't know if you will be able to share, or I can try from my phone to share it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I might forward it to Sally for screen share. Could you do that, Sally?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Bob, you're on.
Okay. It's so good to see you all this morning. So I'll go back to I'll talk about Agua Prieta first. So I was there the week just prior to Easter Sunday. So I got there Tuesday afternoon. Every Tuesday in Agua Prieta they have a vigil that they've had for the last 8 years or maybe even more, where they for about almost a half a mile to the border, they walk down with crosses of people that have died in the desert, and we walk and call out the names of the people on the crosses, and it's really a very powerful event that takes place every Tuesday evening in Agua Prieta. And then Wednesday morning, Sister Judy and I arrived at the resource center about 4:30 in the morning, and it was already busy. Throughout that day, there was a total of about 230 migrants that showed up at the resource center throughout the day, and we were extremely busy from the time we got there until we left at about 12 or 12:30 in the afternoon. We saw 20 I think it was 20 people for medical issues, anywhere from blisters to colds, and then it was actually quite a warm day, and there were 22 people that took showers, it was a very interesting day. And then we get there on Thursday, and there had only been 6 people that had shown up from 11 o'clock that evening, which is pretty rare. But we had a chance to spend some time with this beautiful family from Chiapas who had tried to cross in Juarez, and they were unsuccessful. And then they came to Agua Prieta, and they had already tried twice. a couple with their 9-year-old daughter who was just, she was so sweet. At one point, they were in the back, and the husband was so tired, he was exhausted, and he was resting on one of the cots in the back. And the young girl comes in to Judy and I, and she has a box of raisins, and she says she wanted to share them with us. They have nothing. They have nothing. And so this just shows you who these people are. And then Friday, there was no one. There was no one. So the belief is that the cartels basically shut down for the weekend.
Huh.
Yeah.
Bob, tell them where Agua Prieta is.
So Agua Prieta is just on the other side of Douglas, Arizona. It's and the resource center is a couple hundred feet from the border, a block away, basically. So you can look out the back porch and see the buses and the vans drive up, and the migrants getting off. Yeah, we had one gentleman that I tried to help. Two people carried him in. His ankle was so swollen. I wanted to send him to get it x-rayed, but that didn't work. So he laid down and slept for about an hour. And then two friends come in with the guide, and he gets up and they leave. So this gentleman can hardly walk, but he had to leave. That's the way it works. And then I'm not sure if people had heard, but Monday of that week, 10 miles west of where we were, there was a woman that died hanging from the border wall.
Ah,
Oh, God.
She attempted to cross. They have different apparatuses that they use for lowering people. Her foot got caught in the wall, and then she was turned upside down, and they couldn't get her back up. And she died hanging there. 32 years old from Sinaloa, Mexico. I'm so baffled because the Border Patrol station is 5 miles away. There are towers in this area, and it's a very flat area. I just can't believe that no one saw her. I don't understand that, but they found her either Monday night or Tuesday morning, hanging there. So hopefully they'll investigate this further. I don't know. And then in Nogales, the numbers of people at the shelter has increased. So they're housing about 90 people now. Capacity is about 130. So they're slowly approaching that number. People are still coming, families are coming, and people are so anxious and nervous about May 23rd. The stress level in Nogales is extremely high. It's really, really, people come in and with ailments and we'll talk, and it's like, that a lot of this is stress related. And they say, they know. So they're hopeful, but anxious at the same time. And I sure hope that that people are allowed to start crossing. Some people do cross. We had some people in Nogales that have gone through, but very few families are passing through with asylum claims. And the one really good thing is that the number of positive cases in Nogales is extremely low. I can only think of 2 positive cases in the last 2 weeks, 2 COVID positives. So, which, going back months when the positive rate was over 20%. So, so this excuse of using Title 42, that doesn't hold water. That's just is not a good reason to have people there. And as far as the desert, I was out twice last week. Had no encounters, which is kind of unusual, but a lot of people, Samaritans going out, are having encounters along the wall in the desert itself. So a lot of people are still crossing all the way from Ajo over to Douglas. I did leave water, several locations. and going back on Sunday, finding that the water had been taken. I don't think it was taken by migrants. So I didn't leave water at a couple of the places because of that. The vigilante presence is huge down there now, and they're getting much more aggressive. And Dora can speak of that. But there was a photo taken by one of the Samaritans of these three gentlemen, migrants that were crossing, and they had on the carpet shoes. So she took a picture of their feet, and in the photo, you can see 2 gallons that I left. They found the gallons, but the gallons were slashed. So there was no water. There was no water. So these are the things that folks are doing down there. So yeah, which is really, really sad. So okay.
When you go to the desert, you don't go by yourself, do
No,
you?
no, 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 never, never, no. No, we're always with at least one other person. Yeah.
I have one more question, Bob. Probably we know this, but you know, over time, sometimes we hear about people helping migrants who have been deported, you know, and also we hear about people helping migrants who are amassing at the border trying to get into the US but being denied. When you're in Agua Prieta, what was the status of the folks that you were dealing with, those 20 or 22 medical cases?
Well,
have they just been deported, or are they trying to get in?
no, they've been deported. The
deported.
resource center is where the people are, you know, that have been deported, and they, for the most part, this was a very unusual day. Sister Judy said, I've never seen a day like this where this many people hang out and get showered, because usually the turnaround time is really fast. You know, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. People come in, they get coffee, hot chocolate, something to eat, you know, gloves or a hat or something, and then they're gone. You
and
know,
then where do they go? Where do they go?
They go to meet with their guides again.
Yeah.
So,
You know, the resource center is in Sonora. It's
Yeah.
in the border, just
Mhm.
like at Nogales.
Right.
And so it's right there. And when they come, and their guide or coyote come, they gotta go.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's I've seen it so many times. People are really compromised, but they have to leave. You know, they may be with, you know, a couple other people, and that's their lifeline. These other folks, you know, it's a really difficult
So
situation.
I feel really ignorant about this, but so they've been deported. So they made it across the border, picked up by Border Patrol,
Yeah,
and just immediately deported. How
immediately
does
sent back.
their coyote learn of their having been deported?
Oh, they call them on the phone. I mean, you'll see.
They just say, "I'm here, come
immediately-
get me."
Yeah, immediately they'll come in, and you see people right away. All these folks are on their phone, and that's so they're communicating, and they'll say, you know, either we're going to send a taxi for you, or we'll send someone to pick you up, or meet us at the OXXO or the bodega, and then they're in there and they're out of there for the most part. I'd say 98% of the time, that's exactly what happens.
And then they try again.
They'll try again. When I was down there last month, or the time before, there was a gentleman that I saw 3 days in a row. He had crossed, been deported 3 times.
Rock, do you have a question? Your hand's up.
Yes.
I do, she doesn't. Oh, she can't get her hand down.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
Any other questions for Bob, or should we?
Well, I don't, I mean, that made me laugh, but what I have to say is really more serious. I mean, I know that, I mean, we know there are many, many deaths at the border, but when you all mention this type of tragic happening. I feel like we need to just maybe, take a moment to hold them in the light at the, the end of the call or the middle of the call. Just, take a moment to just, those that you have mentioned have, suffered intensely or have died or been killed. I just feel that need to just like take a moment and
Do
say
it right now,
quick.
Rosa.
So let's just take, a moment and hold these people in the light. The woman that you just mentioned, Bob, just take a couple of moments of silence for that. Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing this to us. And thank you for recognizing the nameless, the unknown, but still treasured in our lives and treasured in other people's lives. Thank you.
Thanks, Rosa.
Rosa.
Thank you. Okay, Dora.
Mary Jane, Barbara has raised a hand.
Okay. Barbara.
Yeah, hi, thank you all. And that moment of prayer is as precious as Bob's recounting of what you see there and experience. Slashing those water containers just bothers me to death. On my phone just now, there has popped in an article from the Washington Post that's written by a fellow named Nick Miroff, M-I-R-O-F-F. The title is "The Border Wall Trump Called Unclimbable is Taking a Grim Toll." And the article is talking about there in San Diego, where the hospitals are filled with the patients who are coming in with just improbable injuries from their having fallen from the wall. And this is just information that I haven't really seen printed before. He's citing an article that's in the Journal of the American Medical Association. So there is kind of a wider press, maybe distribution that is going to make some things awareness of people's lives that, ordinary people in the street may not have heard before.
Mhm.
I just wanted to call that in. It seems so timely right now.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara.
Yeah.
Dora.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Thank you for the information and all that you do. And good morning, everyone. Thank you, Rosa, for leading us in that moment of silence, because it's a lot for us to learn so quickly and in the meeting, so we need a moment to process that the pain that is happening in our borders. And thank you for the space all the time to tell what's going on, and also in the area of Salsa de Sonora. And as you may know, that the Resource Center will be celebrating their first anniversary. The local women who has been the one present every single day in that place deserve all the honor. They work very hard to keep our migrants that have been returned safe, and it's a life-saving place because, as Bob was mentioning, we do have people who has been deported at the verge of death. When I say that, we're talking of people who their blood pressure is high as a rocket, sugar levels are low, they're almost in coma, blisters that, and people who is diabetic, who are terrible on their feet. So having the presence of the center it is a life-saving. And when Bob, you were mentioning that you guys saw an increase of numbers in Agua Prieta. So Sasabe, Sonora is next to Sasabe, Arizona, which is about an hour and a half west, Bob? West from Tucson, Arizona. But it's next to, the border wall and the desert, and you have 23 miles of border wall, ugly border wall, and 21 gaps. So it defeats the purpose too. The only thing that it does is send our people far, far away or to most remote, dangerous areas. But the increase that you see, Bob, I think is because for a week and a half, we haven't had no deportations in that area. And I asked the director of the organization who's supposed to be assisting migrants in that area. I'm sorry.
Looks like we lost her, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. I'm sure she'll try to hear. She's coming back in. Let's see.
Okay.
I am so sorry. Something happened to my Zoom call.
Okay, we got your back. Good. I'm glad you came back in.
We get it.
All right, we did it. So, I was just sharing that apparently deportations are going to stop happening in the area of Sasabe, Sonora, but we don't know yet. Things change overnight. It can be a strategy from the government, the Mexican government and this government to deviate the organized crime and, to send people somewhere else. It could be that, but the local people who we're seeing, so Sasabe, Sonora, if none of you know that area, is a very small town, which is very remote in the border. No one knew about that town much until we make a big deal about it because they were deporting 150 people a day. So yes, we make a big deal, and it changed a little bit. But they are a town with a lot of business and human trafficking, which is very sad because the local people love their town, they love their area, and they grew up there, and they had this infiltration of organized crime in the area. But they have a lot of warehouses where they hold people there. So these people, women and children, we just had a little one from Guatemala, 7 years old. They came with her mom and her aunt to ask for clothing and food because at those warehouses, they're limited on what they get. They might get one meal a day if they're lucky. So it is good for us to be present in there. But we are going to celebrate our first anniversary. And I don't know if, Sally, were you able to get that?
Yes, you want me to share it now?
Sure. So I think I have only 15 minutes, right? so I can just share a little bit of the pictures. Yes. So some of you have seen this picture, and it says in English, community center in migrant aid. That's now then that day picture, it has the ramada that with money that was donated from the Samaritans, the migrant trail in Tucson, Arizona, with the Samaritans from Tucson. So we'll build a porch and a beautiful ramada. So you can go to the next one.
Esperanza means hope.
Yes, House of Hope.
House
Yes,
of
Home of Hope. And that name was given by the local women. They really were, you know, waiting for this moment or for somebody to support them and help them to create a center that assisted our migrants. So in the first picture, you can see a woman that is going, you know, a group of people that is going in to the center, and they all lined up coming when we were having these deportations with their belongings in trash bags.
Mm.
And that's how they came into our center. And then we see, you know, the pot of beans, they're always boiling, which is beautiful. And then also we have the wounded feet, you know, that Bob so many times have been able to help us to take care of them. And then in the picture, you see me and Gail, which is, you gotta go to the meeting?
Yeah.
Which is the other women who is with me. So my husband is giving me the heads up. He needs to get into his meeting. Yeah, I know. And we babysit our granddaughter, so we take turns. But I just, you know, share these pictures and the daily activities of our center, you know, in our program. And many of you, the heart that you see in there is, it was created to create awareness of, as many people we have support and during this year, and we are over 3,500 people that have come to our center.
Yeah.
For a small town, it's a blessing. And then we have the invitation to the celebration, the virtual celebration tomorrow. So all of you that are far away can you know, join us, and it will be at 11 Arizona time. I don't know what time it will be your time. I am always confused with that. But that's the link where you can come with us and spend an hour. And Title 42 is still a headache for us. It's horrible. We continue to light the, you know, shine the line in this issue. It has turned into this horrible political agenda. And I don't know where it's going to go from here, but okay. So I'm done.
All right. Thank you so much, Dora. And do you have to leave, Dora? You have to leave Zoom? She must. Okay.
Dora, you have muted yourself. And there.
I am okay. I will be listening. I
Okay.
just, yes, but I'll be present. If you have any questions, I am here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm so
Good.
sorry.
No, you have life.
But, well, this is it.
Oh,
Say hi. Say hi to this beautiful woman.
no.
Say,
Hi, baby.
I'm the future fighter for grandma when she can do it. I'm training her already.
Good.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Paulina?
Good morning, everybody.
Is
Can you
that-
hear me?
Yes, perfect.
I'm so happy to see all of you. Thank you, Bob and Dora, for sharing. It always fills my heart to hear about your work. And as a Sonorense myself, I feel very connected to the work that you are all doing. So I don't even know where to begin because there's so many things happening. But I want to share that part of the team of Espacio Migrante traveled to Tapachula, Chiapas. This is at the border with Mexico and Guatemala. And we were there for 2 weeks in March. And we went, Sarah, myself, and Jessie and Jessica, who are our two Haitian community organizers. And the purpose of the visit was to do a diagnosis of the Haitian community over there. So we did surveys and we went to different neighborhoods to talk to Haitians. In total, we interviewed about 100 Haitians. And what we saw in Tapachula really impacted us because we saw the conditions are even worse than in Tijuana. So we said, when did Tijuana become like the better place, no? Because we know things in Tijuana are not good either. So we went to different neighborhoods. Haitians are living throughout the city of Tapachula. They have to stay in Tapachula for months, for about 8 or more months, until they get some sort of document to continue their travel to Tijuana or another border. And we just saw a very hard situation when we went to the neighborhoods to talk to people. We saw the living conditions are very bad, like some houses don't even have a door or floor, a lot of malnutrition too. And what they shared with us was about lack of access to basic rights like healthcare. We met a mom who had 2 children. One of her babies had fever and she was denied entrance to the hospital. So we were just very sad and angry by everything we saw. We also saw a lot of discrimination in the city. For example, in downtown Tapachula, migrant people can't sell things in the regular market. There's signs all over downtown that say they are in Spanish and Haitian Creole, so it's directed for Haitians, and it says amigo migrante, so migrant friend, please don't sell anything on the street or the police will take your things. Go to the migrant market to sell your things. So they have a separate market for them. So we just saw like a lot of ¿cómo se dice? Segregation. And it was also hard because I went with my 2 colleagues who are Haitian. So they share with me that even, for example, when we went to a restaurant or coffee shop, we would feel like everybody looking at them. And some colleagues from Tapachula, they share with us that there's a lot of discrimination and people aren't used to seeing Haitians in regular places like a restaurant or things like that. So we were just, it was a big impact to do that trip. They also shared things like in Tapachula, Mexican immigration and the National Guard commits a lot of abuses towards this population. So many of them are scared of Mexican authorities. And we saw a lot of militarization too. For example, we see the National Guard patrolling the streets, but also we crossed to Guatemala one day. And just to cross into Guatemala, there was the National Guard, like a lot of tension. They only asked my 2 colleagues who are Haitian, they only asked them for their documents. Obviously, they didn't bother us. And I went to Guatemala in 2018 and I didn't see that much militarization. So we just compare that. The positive thing is that different organizations from Tapachula participated in doing these surveys. And we also got together to share like good practices because, for example, in Tijuana and in California, we've had experience with Haitian community and they are starting to, for example, hire translators. And so we were sharing like, how did you deal with the language barrier and sharing how we can improve like all of us. And we also made like alliances so that we can work together. Like there's an organization that works, it's called Leyendo y Pedaleando. So they do storytelling with Haitian children in different neighborhoods. So we already made contact with them and we're gonna do simultaneous events in Tijuana and Tapachula for storytelling and other activities with children. And I think for us, it also made us reflect a lot about our work, like how important it is what we're doing. So even for the twins, Jesse and Jessica, they felt a lot of tension because they're Haitian, but they were also more motivated for the work they're doing in Tijuana. On the last day, we had a service fair with about 200 people and different organizations provided information about the services. And I think it was, the positive thing is that organizations are planning together and trying to outreach to this community. So that was our trip to Tapachula. In Tijuana, we are doing the same study. So our organizers are going to different neighborhoods. Like last Saturday, we were here in Tijuana in a, it's not a shelter, but it's a space where there's tents, and it's run by a group called Casa de los Pobres. And we went there. There's about 160 Haitians, a lot of children living there. So we brought information, printed information in Creole, and also food for them. So we always try to bring warm food when we do these type of actions, because people need information, but they also need to have their stomach full when they receive it. And so that was our experience. And I want to share a little bit about the situation with Ukrainians. We haven't really had much contact with Ukrainians because they barely spend 24 hours in Tijuana and they cross immediately. However, 2 days ago, we published a statement because we see a lot of inequality between the treatment towards Ukrainians and other nationalities. And I'll share a little bit about this. So on April 6th, CBP started processing Ukrainians through Tijuana. And DHS announced that they were going to increase their capacity so they could process Ukrainians quickly. So since April 6th, they started processing about 500 to 1,000 people every day. And just in less than 20 days, they were able to process 14,000 Ukrainians. And that's a positive thing. We're happy to see that. However, it's a big contrast because the border has been closed for any other nationality seeking asylum for more than 2 years. And when back before the border closed, when they had the metering list operating, the most they would process in a day would be 50 people. But some days they would process 10 people, 5 people, or nobody at all. And now we're processing up to 1,000 people every day. And the people who were on the metering list, on the waiting list before the pandemic, who are still waiting for any answer to their case, it's 9,600 people. And last year, a federal judge from the US determined that the metering list is illegal and those people should be processed immediately. However, both the US and Mexico say they haven't done it. This judge ordered that in August of last year, and they still haven't processed anybody because the US and Mexico say they don't have capacity to process so many people. And they say that it will be chaotic, and that's 9,600 people. But in 20 days, they processed 14,000 people. So that's a big contrast. DHS also mentioned that they were not going to separate any families, which is good, but it's a big contrast with the zero tolerance policy for Central Americans and other nationalities. Also, Mexico has a big part on that. When Ukrainians arrive to Mexico City, they immediately get a tourist visa to travel to Tijuana or another city. And in contrast, we saw in Tapachula, Haitians and Central Americans trying to come to Tijuana, and they just can't because the Immigration Institute and National Guard stopped them. So we just pointed out all these inequalities. We want to make clear that we're in solidarity with Ukrainians. We know that they're fleeing from war and nobody should go through that. But I think it shows us that it is possible. It just shows us that if they have will, they can have resources and staff. And I think the Ukrainian, so since this Monday, they stopped processing Ukrainians, and now Ukrainians are going to be able to fly directly from Mexico to the US by plane. But this experience in 20 days, it shows us that it is possible to process people in a dignified and quick way. So, and now we see that Title 42 might not be eliminated. So we're trying to see what will happen, but we want to point out this inequality that we have seen.
Paulina, they will fly from Mexico City then straight to LA.
Yes. I don't know where in the US they're flying to.
I bet it's LA because here in San Diego, I mean, a lot of people have come to receive the Ukrainians. I know that. But the direct flight from Mexico City is hasta LA.
Okay. And also another thing is the narrative, because the media, at least here in Tijuana, in Mexico, the media and also the authorities, they say like, oh, these people deserve to cross the border because they're fleeing from a war, but not everybody else. Or we heard Mexican authorities say like, oh, this is a different migration. They're more como ordenados, like more organized. They come by plane, but they don't recognize that these people might have more resources and other people can barely make it into Mexico or to the border. So yeah, that is just a very big contrast. And I want to share another, like some good news. So most of you know our colleague Josiane. She's one of our community organizers. She's from Cameroon. So she's been in Mexico for 3 years, and she's been trying to bring her children ever since, but she had to request them a visa, and it has been a long process between the government of Mexico, Cameroon, and they have to do it through Nigeria because there's no embassy of Mexico in Cameroon. It's really complicated, but she finally received the visa for her children, and so now she's going to bring them. I shared this with Mary Jean a few weeks ago. She bought the plane tickets and they were coming, but she had a problem with the airline because, and we didn't know this was so complicated, but anywhere they travel through, they request them a visa. So they were making a scale in Brazil and they couldn't, they needed a visa for that. So now she changed the plane tickets and they're going to travel through Turkey. But it just made us think like how difficult it is for somebody with an African passport, even though she's been waiting 3 years. Now they have the visa for Mexico, but it's just been so complicated. But I think they're arriving here on May 18th. So we're really excited. Josiane is really happy. And also thank you to Loretto for your support, because you supported to buy the plane tickets too, for part of the trip. So that's the good news that we're all sharing for. And also adding to what Bob shared, in Tijuana also the COVID situation has improved. And actually on May 9th, we're going to open the shelter for people to be able to work and go in and out, because right now we still have restricted access. And so we're happy for that because we're able to open up more, and families can get on with their lives, like work while they are in the shelter and things like that. So a lot of information that I just shared with you in 5 minutes, but that's kind of a summary of everything happening over here. Thank you.
Thank you, Paulina. And now, anyone have questions for Paulina? Bob.
Thank you so much, Paulina, for all of your information. I have two questions. In Tapachula, are there resources in Tapachula for people, for the migrants, health, any type of healthcare or emergency situations that they may have? What are the resources available for them there?
So our perception is that there's less resources. For example, there's only 3 shelters in the city. In Tijuana, there's 25 shelters, and most people can't be in shelters in Tapachula because there's not enough room. And for example, we didn't see any clinic that they can access. Like in Tijuana, there's an organization that has a free health clinic. In Tapachula, there's Médicos del Mundo, Doctors of the World. It's an international organization, but they mostly provide information and sometimes they provide medicine, but there's no such thing as a clinic that people can go to. And we also, there's organizations that are doing a lot of work, but it's mostly legal services and psychological attention. Um, but there's not a lot of, or there's no food programs. For example, in Tijuana, a few organizations like us, we implemented the program to give cards that people can use to buy food at the supermarket. Somebody in Tapachula from an organization shared with us that they tried to do the same in Tapachula, and the supermarket didn't want to, because they said, oh, a lot of Haitians are going to come and they're going to scare away the customers. So the discrimination over there is very big. I think it's hard also for organizations to do the work, but there's organizations that are trying their best. And then another thing that I thought was really interesting, there's a group of Haitians who are asylum seekers, and they organize, and they have the Association of Haitian Refugees in Tapachula. So it's about 20 leaders, but they have about 200 people that come to their meetings. And actually they helped us to get to the neighborhoods and everything. So they're there, but I don't think they have a lot of resources, like for food and things like that. But we'll see. Like, we're trying to think how we can connect or support the work that they're doing over there. But yeah, I don't know if that.
Thank you so much. My other question is, when the Ukrainians were coming, were they separate from everybody else? Did they pass them through a different port, or how did that work? Because I can only imagine how horrible that must have been for people to see people passing through. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, first, when they arrived to Mexico, they arrived through Mexico City, through the airport, as opposed to other people arrive through the Guatemala border.
Okay.
And so the Ukrainians flew directly to Tijuana, and then the city of Tijuana opened a shelter for them. And it had really good quality, like yeah, like food, everything clean. And this is great, but it's just a big contrast because they haven't done this with others. Other people were a few months ago camping outside the border in tents. So that's the big contrast. Now that they were processed, the Ukrainians, they were processed through El Chaparral. So it's a port that has been closed since the pandemic for 2 years, but they just opened it to process Ukrainians strictly. But a bus would come like at 6 a.m. to that shelter, take the people, and then bring them to the border. So it wasn't very visible to people in Tijuana because it happened very early, but they were processing them through El Chaparral, port of entry.
Okay, and El Chaparral was bulldozed, what, a month ago?
Yes.
I mean, there were thousands of people camping there, and they came in the morning and said, you have 30 minutes to get your stuff. And they bulldozed the camp down.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Thank you so much, Paulina.
Thank you. Oh.
Any other questions for?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for that. Just such a comprehensive update. There's so much there. I mean, I think that the situation in Tapachula, just it's kind of, you know, hidden, since it's not just an immediate U.S. southern border. So you know, all of that needs to kind of come out to the fore. And I think also, you know, the inequities around the Ukrainians being processed so quickly. I mean, all this information that you have, you said that you published a statement. And so I want to know, is that on your website? Can you provide the link? Because I think that's information that really needs to come out. And like you say, you know, we're in solidarity with the Ukrainians because they're fleeing an atrocious situation and war. but so are so many coming from Central America, Africa and Mexico. They're fleeing because of atrocious situations as well, and some because of war. So I'd love to get that link for that statement. And thank you so much for you and all the work that you're doing, and so happy about Josiane and her kids. That is incredible. That is really, really incredible.
Thank you,
Paulina.
Rosa. I'll send you the statement. It's in Spanish, but we're working on translating it. So I think next week we'll have it in English. So I'll send
Yeah.
it.
Paulina, what you sent me, all I had to do was press a button and it translated it. So maybe Google does it. I have no idea. But in the statement, I wish there was a way, like in how many days, 14,000 people were processed. And if there's a will, there's a way, and that's something we have got to hop on, There is so much controversy here with Title 42. I don't know, Lord.
Paulina, you said that. Also, I want to thank you for being with us this morning, and God, just for all the good work that you're doing. There is so much work for you and your organization to do in Tijuana, and yet you extend yourself to go to the southern Mexican border to extend your work. My question is, your numbers that you quoted to us, did you not say 9,500 Haitians? Or is that the total population of people waiting in Tijuana?
Yes, it was 9,600 on the list, on the metering list.
On the list.
From any nationality.
And so we know with certainty that the US could process that entire list in 10 days, that there is the capacity to do that.
Exactly.
There's some urgency, it seems to me, and for us to get this word out.
Yeah. Pat has her hand up.
Okay.
I'm wondering if the statement or what Sally's referring to could be put in the form of a petition so that we could get a lot of people to sign a petition.
Mhm.
And then it would have to be decided to whom do we want it to go, Homeland Security or whatever. But a petition is not easy, but at the same time, it's much more inclusive.
Good idea.
I like that idea very much, Pat. I'll work on getting it translated. And then we've never made a petition before, but if we can work together on doing it, I think it would be great. And like Mary Jean mentioned, like we wanted to be careful because our message is not that we don't want Ukrainians to be processed or to say, oh, they should wait like everybody else. No, the message is nobody should be forced to wait in Mexico. And like you mentioned, like it shows us that it is possible. So what do we do? So we want it to be treated with the same urgency as.
Yeah.
Mary Jean,
Yeah.
that's Kathy. I saw the same thing in immigration news. And I don't think they were processed in a day, but it was a couple of weeks. And that someone sent to me. I can send you the link. I mean, send you forward the thing from immigration news because I read it there. And I don't know where they got the information from, but it was even more people that had been, and they were processing people who were both documented and undocumented,
Kathy,
as long as they were Ukrainians. Yeah.
Kathy, tell people who you are.
Oh, I'm Kathy Clarkson from Minnesota. And Mary Jean and Sally and I have gone down to the border, but haven't done anything really with the border since the pandemic. And so I'm going to join you on the Poor People's March. And
I am so happy you are.
Yeah,
Being
I'm
part
glad
of
to join, yeah.
the Loretto delegation.
But we have been approached, we have an immigrant support ministry where we've just resettled an Afghani family and, we're resettling 3 refugee families a year with financial help and personnel help from people on the committee. But we were approached by a Ukrainian church here to help with the Ukrainians. And so that's why I was trying to find out more information to give to them. So to see if they couldn't find some of the families within their church who would act as sponsors, and then we would help support as well. So, but that's where I saw it. Someone sent me Immigration Spotlight and it said it had gone on from February, I think, and taking both documented and undocumented people, they were just passed right through.
Thanks.
Kathy, I am so glad that you joined us this morning. And I'm also so glad that you spoke up because I've been sitting here wondering, I wonder which Kathy that is who has
Right.
joined us. So welcome.
Yeah, I thought it was at noon, 11 o'clock my time, and then I looked again and I realized, so I'll have to go in and listen to the first half. But thank you for this because that kind of answers some of the questions the Ukrainians were asking of our committee. And it is, I mean, it is, you can, there was something in the Minneapolis paper, with the humanitarian parole, with the Afghanis, that they were the ones that didn't get on the planes have been just left hanging both in Afghanistan and in other countries and being denied humanitarian parole. And so this is saddening to hear because lawyers were working like crazy here to try to get humanitarian parole for them. And first they were denied because they were in the country, and then they were denied because they were outside of the country. And I think it was awful. And I think they were asking for money to help process to do the paperwork for these folks. And so, that's also an issue. I mean, there's no question in my mind that it's a racial thing. I mean, these people look like us, so they've got to be okay. And which is so awful. And but thank you for inviting me along, Mary Jean. It'll be nice to see you in the flesh.
Okay, yeah, well, wow. All right, thank you all for coming, and Pat, thanks for your petition thing. Nothing like giving us more work to do for people.
You can
Well,
do
that
it,
would be
girl.
something, really, good for Loretto to sign on
Yeah.
to and to be able to advocate for in Washington,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something
and I'm
concrete.
thinking because our Dora and Paulina, and they've committed to go to Washington. I just wish it were sooner. I mean, I wish we need to get out this sooner than later.
Yeah.
So we have to figure that out.
We'll figure it out. We always do.
Okay. Thank you all for joining us. And we're those of us who are